Romance of Sui and Tang Dynasties Chapter 53.
And this incredible history-changing clash started with something completely mundane.
It's always something like that, isn't it?
It really is. Money and food. The core conflict kicks off when Li Mi sends his representative, Jia Renfu, to demand that Wang Xichang repay a vital grain debt.
And this wasn't just any debt. This was the King Chang.
Yeah.
It was critical.
Absolutely critical. That grain was supposed to provision Li Mi's entire massive army.
So if you're Wang Xichang, paying that debt means you're basically fueling your enemy's war machine.
Exactly. So he refuses. But he doesn't just say no. He makes it theatrical. He comes up with this deceitful excuse that he's short on provisions. He says he's Kshang.
Okay.
And he promises he'll only pay up once he harvests rice from the Huai River area, which is, a long way away.
So it's a polite no, a no for now.
It was a refusal dressed up as a delay, but everyone knew what it was. It was a declaration of war. Jia Renfu goes straight back to Li Mi, and his assessment is blunt. He says Wang Xichang's actions are wicked, dishonest, and a clear signal that an attack is coming.
And Li Mi's reaction? It wasn't calm, was it?
Not at all. The sources say he was utterly furious. The term is nu dao, and he just resolves to strike first. He organizes this enormous army to march straight toward Luoyang, the eastern capital.
He really stacks the deck, too.
Yeah.
You see these commanders, Cheng Ziji, Fan Wenchao in the vanguard, Shang Shangxin in the second line.
And he's leading the rear himself. It was meant to be a demonstration of just overwhelming force.
But a demonstration of force doesn't mean much if the other guy isn't planning to play by your rules.
Exactly. Wang Xichang wasn't blind. He knew exactly how massive Li Mi's army was, and he immediately starts worrying that he can't win a quick conventional fight.
So he knows he can't win on strength alone.
Right. And that strategic anxiety. That's what creates the necessity for deception. If he can't beat them physically, he has to find a way to break them mentally.
And this is where the genius of the whole plan begins. Because the intel he needed, it came from the most unlikely of places.
The rumor mill. A single small soldier returns from Li Mi's territory in Jinyang, and he brings back two critical pieces of gossip.
The first one is almost funny.
It is. The soldier reports that Li Mi's grain stores are being eaten by rats Shu Hao, and it's so bad that Li Mi had to appoint Jia Renfu as the cat commander.
Wait, a cat commander? Seriously?
Yeah.
Why would a military leader like Wang Xichang even pay attention to something that sounds so ridiculous?
Because it's not about the rats. It's about the perception. The damage was to Li Mi's reputation. It suggests that his basic logistical control is just collapsing. But that wasn't even the main thing.
Okay, so what was the second rumor?
The second rumor was devastating. This is the accelerant that turns a simple dispute into, a religious war. The people of Jinyang believed Li Mi had committed sacrilege.
What did he do?
They claimed he had torn down the temple of the Duke of the Zugong to build his new palace. And in doing so, he'd incurred the spirit's wrath.
And for anyone listening, why is violating the temple of the Duke of Zhu so damning?
Because the Duke of Zhu, he's arguably the architect of the entire concept of the mandate of heaven. He's the sage who codified the idea that a ruler's legitimacy comes directly from divine favor.
So destroying his temple isn't just property damage.
No, it's like spitting in the face of heaven itself. It suggests Li Mi thinks he's above the gods.
And Wang Xichang hears this and just sees the opportunity.
Immediately. The text quotes him laughing and declaring, "Wo ji dei yu," which means, "I have my strategy." He's got the perfect narrative hook. But he knows he can't just rely on gossip. He needs to stage a complex piece of political theater.
So he calls a war council.
He does. And a minister named Zhang Yongtong is the first actor on stage. He steps forward and confirms the sacrilege, claiming the spirit of the Duke of Zhu has been appearing to him in his dreams, lamenting the destruction.
So he's priming the audience.
Totally. The ministers are now anticipating a divine message. And then Wang Xichang delivers the main performance. He details his own dream.
Of course he does.
He describes a crowned deity, Duke Jidan, who confirmed his temple was destroyed, that the wood was used for the Luku granary. It's all very specific.
Specificity lends credibility.
It does. And the key message from the deity, a promise to help Wang Xichang defeat Li Mi because Li Mi's fate was failing. The phrase is Yunbai Shishui. His fortune is declining, his time is up.
And the ministers buy it completely.
Hook, line, and sinker. They all agree heaven itself has intervened. But the plan wasn't complete. You have to convince the actual soldiers, the men who will do the fighting.
And this is where it gets really interesting.
This is the birth of the Ghost Army.
So what happens next?
Immediately after the dream announcement, soldiers run and reporting mass hysteria. A soldier named Chen Long, who is known for being simple and honest.
The perfect vessel.
The perfect vessel. He's suddenly gone mad. The text describes him as Pi Fa Qianzu Ru Kuang Ru Qi, so his hair's all disheveled, he's running around like a lunatic demanding to see the ruler.
Oh.
Wang Shichong and his whole court rush out to the parade ground. And Chen Long, who is visibly in a trance, starts reciting these classic lines from the Book of Songs about the mandate of heaven being new.
Though Zhu is an old state, its mandate is new. That's not just a poem, that's a political declaration.
It's everything. And then, speaking through Chen Long, the spirit of the Duke of Zhu confirms Wang Shichong's dream, urges him to attack immediately, and then promises to help with 3,000 yinbing.
Ghost soldiers.
Ghost soldiers. Imagine the absolute shock and conviction that created among the troops watching this unfold.
The theatrical power of that moment.
It's stunning. Then Chen Long just collapses, becomes pale and cold, as if the spirit has literally left his body. The psychological effect was immediate. The troops weren't just inspired, they were convinced of total divine support. The text says every single man had a Duke of Zhu in his chest.
That level of belief is unbreakable.
It's the ultimate psychological victory. But Wang Shichong, who is described as cunning, Jianzhao Duomu, and his advisor, Huan Fasi, they don't stop there.
They know they have to make the ghosts real.
They have to make them real.
Well,
Huan Fasi specialized in what the text calls Pang Menji Shu, unorthodox or even evil methods.
So this is right up his alley.
Completely. He's ordered to select 3,000 of the biggest, strongest men he can find, Biaoxing Dahan, each of them 8 feet tall. Already intimidating.
But not enough.
Not nearly enough. This is where the real terror begins. These huge men were then strapped into massive wooden molds, mu mo yizong or qi, that were 12 feet long, attached to their feet.
So they're creating, 20-foot tall giants?
Exactly. Manufactured giants. Then you add the massive, terrifying ghost masks, the gilion, and these 5-colored painted clothes designed to look completely unnatural and otherworldly. You have 3,000 marching, colossal specters.
Just the sensory details must have been paralyzing, seeing these enormous shapes moving silently towards you in the dark.
Mm-hmm. And knowing your own ruler supposedly offended the very divine mandate they represent. And Huan Fasi stressed speed zi sukun, a surprise attack. The goal was to hit them while the fear and the rumors were still fresh, before anyone could logically process what they were even seeing.
Which brings us back to the big question. Why was Li Mi, with this massive army and superior position, so incredibly vulnerable to this?
It's one word: arrogance. Pure, unadulterated arrogance.
The sources are pretty clear on that, aren't they?
Oh, very. He's described as Shi Kai Lu Gao Kuang, overly self-reliant on his own talent. He'd grown proud, forgotten the struggles that got him there. He started acting as if he was unbeatable.
And that hubris led him to make a series of just terrible strategic errors.
It really did. They systematically hollowed out his army from the inside. If you look at his personnel decisions, you see these critical flaws.
What's the first one?
First, he sends away his most valuable asset, his brilliant military advisor, Xu Shiji, sent him off to Liang. Then he deploys his best fighters, Xin Shubao and Luo Shixin, to fight what he called a Zianjiziji, a minor affliction.
A skin rash, basically. He sends his best warriors to deal with a skin rash.
He thought the main battle with Wang Shichong such a sure thing that he cleared his bench of the best talent. He didn't think he'd need them.
Unbelievable.
The third error just compounds it. He completely ignores the advice of Jiro Rumfu, the man who warned him that Wang Shichong was planning treachery. He dismissed the warning signal.
And the fourth, maybe the most damning one.
He kept the greedy, untrustworthy, flattering advisor Bing Yuanzhen close by. He chose someone who told him what he wanted to hear over someone who told him the truth.
So when the armies finally face off at Kuiping Tuan, Li Mi on the east hill, Wang Shichong on the west, Li Mi is left with brave but reckless fighters.
The Xiyang Haodu Jiren, men like Shan Qiongxin, but he's critically lacking the strategic depth and political savvy that got him that far.
It's all muscle, no brain.
And Han Fasi scouts Li Mi's camp and notes that while it's orderly, it gives off a strong, chilling, killing aura. It's just raw, undirected power. Li Mi had the numbers, but Wang Shichong had weaponized belief. The battle was already decided.
It's a perfect convergence of failure and genius, then. Li Mi loses by relying on conventional strength, while his pride just destroys him from within.
And Wang Shicheng wins by meticulously fabricating a divine mandate with giant props, staged possessions, and powerful rumors.
Juan Fosse was in, well, an impossible position.
Right.
His own sources confirmed it. Limi's Wei army had strong horses and abundant troops. They were just superior.
In raw power, in numbers, everything.
Everything. And Juan Fosse's own troops, I mean, they were well-trained, sure, but they were lacking the sheer muscle to win a conventional fight.
So if brute force guarantees you lose, the only option left is to weaponize the mind.
That's it.
He used this masterclass of psychological warfare.
A combination of things.
Yeah, local intelligence, myth-making, and just pure theater.
Turned belief, or maybe misbelief, into the most lethal tool on the battlefield.
It's the ultimate shortcut to victory, right?
It is. Bypassing months of siege, all that bloodshed, by just shattering the enemy's will to fight in a single morning.
Okay, so let's start where every great strategy starts. Phase 1. The groundwork.
Building that foundation of deception.
Yeah, and Juan Fosse knew his tactics were going to look, well, completely unconventional.
Tsar, even.
Absolutely. So he had to prime his own lord, his own troops. And he starts by claiming he had a dream of the Duke of Zhu.
Of Zhugang, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is essentially establishing a kind of divine pre-approval for his actions.
It's the ultimate strategic cover story, isn't it?
It really is. He's basically saying, hey, I am acting under the guidance of ancient supernatural power.
So don't question me.
Exactly. It elevates his planned maneuvers above, standard military thinking.
Yeah.
It gives him the license to execute these really strange orders without being questioned.
But wait, isn't that a massive risk? I mean, in a high-stakes conflict, what if his own officers just scoffed at a general claiming prophecy?
Well, that's the brilliance of how he executed it. He immediately followed up the myth-making with a physical action that just screamed mystery.
Okay.
His first move, conceal his entire army. But he didn't build a typical fortress.
No.
He erected these massive wooden barriers, and they were painted with these bizarre, brightly colored red and green figures.
What kind of figures?
Some sources say animal-shaped, others say it was a mythological creature called a Lu. The point is, he intentionally created confusion and spectacle before the enemy was even in sight.
He's setting a very strange stage, a visual question mark.
An aesthetic deterrent. But you're right, the real pivot didn't come from prophecy or paint, it came from an accident.
An intelligence accident.
It did. While setting up this strange defense, his men stumbled upon and captured a group of people gathering firewood, woodcutters.
They weren't soldiers.
No, just commoners, family members of a local instructor, Lou Deming. Seemingly a minor event, but it delivered this incredibly granular human intelligence right into Juan Fosse's hands.
And his strategic insight here is just incredible. He didn't just interrogate them.
No, he recruited them.
He immediately spotted that one of the captured men had a striking resemblance to the enemy commander, Lai Mi.
Can you imagine that scene?
Yeah.
This poor woodcutter, dragged in, dirty, and suddenly he's face to face with a general who sees him as the key piece in his entire war plan.
And he didn't even hesitate.
Not for a second. Juan Fosse gave this commoner a serious field promotion, a high military post.
Just like that.
Just like that. It shows how dedicated he was to the deception. He was willing to elevate a civilian lookalike to the status of a frontline commander just to sell the lie that was coming.
And he didn't stop there, did he?
No. He identified two other locals, a Jin Young, nicknamed Full Mountain Flyer, and a Pang Yuan, Armored Piercing Mountain.
Great nickname.
And these guys were not commanders. They were expert local guides, masters of the secluded paths of Mount Bayman. He immediately made them captains.
This is the critical takeaway of Phase 1, then. He valued actionable local knowledge, a good decoy, and 2 mountain guides, more than any cavalry unit he might have lacked.
Yes. He understood that specific human intelligence could overcome a massive numerical deficit. So now he has his cover story, his weird backdrop, and the key people for a flanking maneuver.
That sets the stage perfectly. So he's got this team. What's the first move to test the enemy?
Well, he waits. He waits for the inevitable Wei assault. Lai Mi sends forward 2 of his top commanders, Cheng Ziji and Shan Jiangshan.
Okay.
Cheng Ziji arrives first, expecting a conventional enemy deployment.
And instead he finds what?
These bizarre, brightly painted red and green wooden barriers.
And the unexpected aesthetics, they actually worked.
They did. Our sources say Cheng Ziji was completely deterred just by the sight of these weird defenses. He retreated without even engaging.
That's an immediate psychological win, just based on confusion.
Pure confusion. Shen Jiangxin tried to attack the strange wooden city, but found it too fortified to breach quickly.
So Huan Fasi achieved deterrence through sheer strangeness.
Exactly. He made the enemy hesitate, and that gave him the perfect timing for Phase 2, the night attack lure.
It's a classic trap, but the execution is key.
So Limey's camp was already on high alert, expecting a skirmish or maybe a robbery.
But then patrols report something totally unexpected.
Right. The gates of Huan Fasi's strange wooden city are wide open. They're lit up like it's daytime, but they're totally empty.
That is irresistible bait for a frustrated commander.
It is, and Cheng Ziji, still smarting from retreating earlier, he charges right in.
And he finds himself chasing what?
What seems to be a single, hastily retreating Zing general for about 10 Lanji. It's a low-stakes pursuit, designed to draw him away from the main camp, to isolate him and his men.
And this is where the whole thing shifts from a chase to a sensory ambush.
That's it. That 10-Lai chase is interrupted by total sensory overload, a massive, sudden cannon blast.
The sources call it a shengtian da pao, a heaven-shaking cannon.
Yes, and it's followed by continuous artillery. But it's not just the sound.
What else?
Simultaneously, a powerful, unnatural gust of wind, a guaifan, suddenly whips up and blows directly into the faces of the Wei troops.
Okay, so this is the transition. They're moving from a standard skirmish into a fully orchestrated psychological event.
The sound, the light, the sudden blast of air, it's all designed to generate this deep, superstitious unease.
They're unnerved, confused, physically disoriented. But that was really just a prelude, wasn't it? The main performance began the next morning.
Absolutely. The next morning, as the sources say, the rooster has crowed, the sky is bright. Huan Fasi unleashes the psychological knockout blows.
A devastating 1-2 punch. First, the theatrical fear. The heavenly soldiers. Tell us about these troops, because this is the most vivid part of the whole deception. What did the Wei army actually see coming at them at dawn?
They saw something that just defied their military experience. 7 or 8 squads burst out, but they looked like demons from folklore.
How so?
The description is horrifyingly specific. They were painted blue-faced, had red hair, giant mouths, and wolf teeth. They wore these multicolored robes. They looked like grotesque, otherworldly spirits.
And the one detail that made sure they dominated the battlefield?
Their height.
Yeah.
They were walking on high stilts. Just imagine seeing these tall, blue-faced, red-haired, stilt-walking giants stomping out of the smoke and mist at dawn.
They're instantly larger than life. They're towering over the cavalry.
And to make the scene truly hellish, they used sulfur and gunpowder smoke to fill the air.
So it wasn't just sight and sound, it was smell, too.
Sulfur smells like hellfire.
What?
They had fully created an environment that looked, sounded, and smelled like the underworld had just opened up.
And the tactical effect of these ghost-face long men?
Immediate and devastating. And critically, it broke the horses first. The war horses saw these giant, strange, stomping figures, and they panicked. They roared. They started leaping uncontrollably.
So instead of responding to the reins,
they charged straight forward, scattering their own battle line, plunging the entire Wei army into complete chaos.
Okay, so total chaos in the front line. Men losing control of their mounts because of these mythical-looking creatures. What was the single biggest thing Huan Fasi did right then to make sure the collapse was total?
The ultimate surgical blow to morale. The decoy.
Ah, the woodcutter.
Simultaneously, while the ghost soldiers are terrifying the front lines, they bring out the Li Mei lookalike.
And this wasn't subtle. This was designed for maximum strategic shock.
Oh, it was a calculated assassination of command morale. They dressed the decoy in a brocade robe, gold armor, fitting for a commander, but then they tied him up backward on a horse, and they paraded this decoy past the Wei line, shouting, "Quickly save me, I am captured."
That sight.
Yeah.
The blue-faced giants, the sulfur smoke, and then the image of your esteemed leader tied up, humiliated, calling for help. That must have been unbearable.
The outcome was instantaneous.
No.
Catastrophic. Commander Cheng Ziji, seeing this figure, believed absolutely that his true lord was captured.
He didn't even question it.
No. He instantly concluded the battle was lost. Not because they were defeated physically, but because the command structure was destroyed. He said to a subordinate, "Now that the commander is lost, fighting is useless. Let's scatter."
Wow. The soldiers weren't killed. They simply believed their war was already over.
They surrendered to a perfectly timed, perfectly staged lie. And the fatalistic reply from Fan Wencaio sums up the total collapse of their ideology. It just says, East heaven is Buddha, West heaven is Buddha.
Meaning?
Meaning the cause is lost. It doesn't matter who we serve now. The mass surrender began immediately. And Cheng Ziji, thinking only of his mother, just slipped away alone in the confusion.
So the front line is destroyed by theater and deception. Mass surrender. But what about the back end of the Wei army? Li Mi still has reserves, supplies, his main camp.
And that's where Yuan Fossi's meticulous planning for that flanking maneuver pays off. All this panic at the front created the perfect smoke screen for the real physical damage to happen at Li Mi's main base.
And this is where the co-opted woodcutters, the local guides, finally paid their strategic dividend.
Exactly. They were used under the cover of darkness to guide a special detachment of Zheng troops through those secluded, hidden paths on Mount Beiman.
A route Li Mi never expected an army to use.
Never. And this brings us to Li Mi's critical oversight. With all his numbers, what simple defensive measure did he just neglect?
Overconfidence.
Sheer overconfidence. He'd built only simple temporary barracks Yingfang. He completely neglected to construct proper wooden stockades, Buli Muza, or any defensive walls around his camp. He thought, who would dare attack my rear?
Big mistake.
Huge. The detachment, guided by the local experts, executed a scorched earth policy. They used sulfur and fire starters to burn the main camp to the ground. Our source describes smoke and flame reaching the sky.
An inferno behind the Wei lines?
Is a complete pincer movement. The frontline morale was destroyed by the psychological attack, and their entire supply line, their logistics, their retreat path, consumed by fire at the back.
They were caught between a ghost army and a wall of flames.
There was nowhere left to go but surrender.
The physical route was swift.
Very. Shan Shansen, trying to break out, was quickly overwhelmed and captured by dozens of these specialized hook lances, Julian Qiang.
Which were what?
They were used by General Zhang Yongtong's men, and they were specifically designed to drag a rider and his horse down. It's an anti-cavalry capture weapon.
Wow, so they were prepared for everything.
Lima sent his last reinforcements only for them to be immediately captured by the same techniques. This wasn't just deception. It was a highly coordinated, well-rehearsed plan.
So Li Mi flees to the safety of the Luku granary, totally defeated.
And it's reported that he received some consolation from his subordinate, Jia Runfu, who tried to put it all in historical perspective.
What did he say?
He essentially reminded Li Mi, look, major defeats happen. The founding emperor, Han Gaozu, suffered many defeats, yet ultimately gained the empire.
Right, and on the other side.
Conversely, Shang Yu, though often victorious, eventually perished. It's an attempt to restore focus, to remind Li Mi that one crushing psychological defeat isn't the end of the war.
But the damage was undeniable.
Oh, absolutely.
And the final confirmation of the deception's efficacy comes when Cheng Ziji finally catches up to his commander.
Yes, and he confirms it. He says the sight of the captured lookalike was the ultimate stratagem, the Gunji. It's what broke the army's will to fight instantly. He also reported that Bing Yunzan had already surrendered the entire city to Wang Shichong while they were fleeing.
The collapse was complete.
Utterly. It was a perfectly synchronized, multi-layered deception.
It wasn't just one good idea.
No, it was a comprehensive structure. 1. Myth. The Zhu Gong dreamed to prime his own men. 2. Specific intelligence. The co-opted woodcutters to enable the flank.
3. Physical theater.
The ghost soldiers, the stilts, the fire, to create a terrifying sensory environment. And 4, the strategic, surgical strike of psychological panic.
The decoy Li Mi.
To remove the troops' will to fight.
It wasn't really a battle fought over land or resources, was it? It was a performance, designed to break the enemy's spirit before they even realized the whole thing was a calculated lie.
Orchestrated by a general who simply refused to be outnumbered.
The insight for us here is profound. The most powerful weapon available to Yuan Fossi wasn't the sword or the spear.
Not at all. It was the deeply held belief of the soldiers in their cause and, critically, in their commander's invincibility.
And when you shatter that belief,
By making them think their leader has been humiliated and captured by, supernatural forces, the physical conflict becomes irrelevant. The war is effectively over.
so imagine this. You're Li Mi, a major warlord, you're leading the Long Army, and you are a top contender for the throne of China. And then, after one bad battle, your whole world it doesn't unravel, it implodes. The reports are pouring in, not over weeks, but in like a 48-hour window. Territory's gone, generals captured. Your whole dream is just dissolving into panic.
And that political implosion, that's
Yeah.
what we're really digging into today. I mean, Alami was at the absolute height of his power. He controlled huge resources. But our source material, it zooms right in on the immediate aftermath of his fight with Wang Shichong. And this isn't a story of a slow decline. It's really a perfect example of how a military loss, plus some very smart trickery, can cause a total system failure, like instantly. Well, we're starting at the point where Lim Ni's power base is already shaking. It's not just the battle, it's the speed of the losses that causes this complete breakdown in morale. And it all starts with the confirmation of the worst possible news, the loss of Jinyang Fortress.
Right, Cheng Yao-jin had already warned things were bad, but then Wei Zheng shows up, and the details he brings. It's a disaster, but not won by force. It's all about deception.
Exactly. Wang Shichang got it. He knew he didn't need to win a long, drawn-out war. He just had to break the nerve center. And he did it with a trick that, well, it exploited a huge flaw in their chain of command.
So tell us what happened at Jinyang, because this seems to be the pin that gets pulled.
The deception was almost laughably simple, but perfectly timed. It's 5 a.m, everyone's guard is down. A big force rides up to the fortress, shouting to open the gates. The manager, a guy named Zheng Sima, he goes up to look. And the source makes a point of saying that under the lamplight, he was convinced he saw Li Mimingong on horseback. It was a visual trick, probably a body double, the right banners,
What does that even say about their security? That a manager on a wall can just make a decision like that based on a glimpse of a silhouette?
It says there was a catastrophic failure of, of protocol, of trust. If he could just open the gates based on what he thought he saw, there were clearly no double checks.
Yeah.
No coded signals. The trust was all personal, and in this case, fatally misplaced.
And because of that one lapse in judgment, he opens the gates.
Yeah. And he's captured instantly, along with General Pei Renyan. Now, Wei Zheng, he realizes what's happening in all the chaos and acts fast. He warns the royal lady and the heir Wang Nianyang and Sezi. Saving them was crucial for the succession, They managed to escape out the south gate, but the military command in the fortress, gone. And the psychological blow was just irreparable.
And the second that fortress falls, the panic just spreads everywhere. What happens next?
The reports just keep coming in. It's relentless. Almost immediately, a patrol confirms Hulao Pass, another key defensive point, has fallen. Then the really scary news. Wang Shichang's main army is only 30 miles away. It's about 15 kilometers. They're practically on top of them.
So no time to regroup. No time to do anything.
Nothing. It forces Li Mi into a desperate retreat to Hanyang. But even that doesn't hold. Within 2 days, more reports. Yanxi is gone. Luoku is gone. That one trick at Jinyang just set off a chain reaction, a territorial domino effect. A setback became a total rout.
And that speed brings us to the crisis of command. I mean, you can only take so many hits before the person in charge just breaks. And the source shows Li Mi hitting that exact point. Total despair.
Oh, he is just completely undone. He's lamenting, calling Wang Shichang a rogue, but ultimately he blames himself. His own carelessness. He lists off the generals who've been captured, who defected. He basically concludes he has nowhere to go, no one to rely on.
This is the moment a leader decides his entire political life is over.
He loses it completely. He asks, famously, why keep this 6-foot body, and actually draws his sword to kill himself. And that's more than just despair, right? That's the leader publicly signaling that the cause is lost, which gives everyone else permission to just give up.
But then you get this incredible moment of loyalty. Wang Bodang steps in, stops him, and he doesn't just give him a pep talk. He offers a real, actual strategy for recovery.
It's the ultimate act of loyalty, but it's backed up by a plan. He physically stops Li Mi, tells him, you went through so much to get here. One failure doesn't erase everything. And his plan was smart. It was designed to use what they had left before Wang Shichang could consolidate his gains.
What were the main points of this recovery plan?
It was a 3-part defense. First, block the Yellow River to the south, guard the Taihang Mountains to the north. That's your base. Second, and this is the key part, connect with Xu Shiji, who was holding Liang in the east. Wang Bodang really stresses that Xu Shiji is loyal and smart. The source uses this incredible phrase, "Jushuchi," which means he won't change his mind just because of success or failure.
So that's a bet on principle over pure pragmatism. The plan hinges on getting food to Shushiji and using the mountains to rally. I mean, on paper, it sounds like a long shot, but a possible one.
It was all about buying time and restoring a sense of purpose. Wang Godang argued that if Li Mi just showed he was still in the fight, his old followers would come back. They could wait for the Tang and Wang Shichang to just wear each other out.
It sounds like hope, but also maybe delusion. I mean, weren't his generals already saying morale was totally gone?
And that is the tragic reality. Li Mi takes this plan, he turns to the generals he has left, and he asks them to support it. And this is where you get the brutal, honest truth.
What do they say? Were they inspired by Wang Bodang's loyalty?
At first, just silence. And when Li Mi pushes them, they lay it all out. Morale is gone. They specifically mention the North Mang battle as having terrified the troops. The generals basically admit their men have no will to fight or die. They only have about 20,000 troops left, and they're afraid if they wait any longer, everyone will just desert.
It shows that a good plan means nothing if your people won't follow it.
Exactly. And they end with this chillingly honest bit of political analysis. They say people are transactional. They follow whatever gives them an advantage. The phrase they use is "oh, quam."
Yeah.
It means human nature tends toward advantage, and this is always the case. This isn't an army anymore. It's a bunch of survivors looking for the best deal. Their answer was a hard no.
So Li Mi has no choice. He has to surrender to the rising power, the Tang. And he offers his generals the choice to leave, knowing they can get a good deal. And this is where we see that ultimate test of personal loyalty play out.
It really is. This is the moment that defines them, and you get this incredible contrast between absolute loyalty and some very specific, very pragmatic self-preservation.
Let's start with Wang Bodong. Li Mi even gives him an outright, tells him to go back to his family. How does he respond?
It's just legendary stuff. Wang Bodong flatly refuses. He brings up their oath of life and death. He says he would rather die with Li Mi in the wilderness than abandon him, family or no family. And that act of pure sacrificial honor, it moves everyone in the room. It shows that for some, the oath still mattered.
That's the ideal. Now contrast that with Chen Yaojin. He also refuses to go to the Tang, but for a very, very different reason.
Chen Yaojin's refusal is pure survival. He starts by saying it's about his mother, but then he admits the real reason. And it all comes down to a personal grudge, a really bad one. It's about his history with the Tang's rising star, Li Shimin.
What was the grudge? What did he do that made him so afraid?
Chen Yaojin confesses that in the past, he had trapped and imprisoned Li Shimin for 100 days. But that's not even the worst part. He tells this story about chasing Li Shimin, finding him hiding in a cabinet. And Chen Yaojin says he thought Li Shimin was a python spirit, some kind of demon, and almost killed him with his axe right there.
Wait. He almost axed the future Tang emperor because he thought he was a monster hiding in a piece of furniture?
Exactly. Qin Shi Bao was the only one who stopped him. So Chen Yaojin's thinking is, the Tang family, and especially Shimin, is not going to forget this. He's convinced they'll cut him into the second he shows up. So he bows out immediately.
So Wang Bodong chooses death before dishonor, and Chen Yaojin chooses to run because he has this very specific, nearly murderous incident on his record. It's high stakes, personal risk management.
And it shows you that in these moments, big ideas often take a backseat to survival and the fear of very personal payback.
Li Mi can't risk anyone else leaving, so he rushes the surrender. He doesn't even wait for Qin Shi Bao or tell Xu Shiji. He just takes his 20,000 troops and heads west, sending an envoy ahead.
And the Tang Emperor, Li Yuan, his decision to welcome Li Mi wasn't about sympathy. It was pure strategy.
Why would you welcome a defeated rival, especially one whose men almost killed your son? What's the strategic play there?
It was basically asset acquisition. The emperor knew Li Mi still had a great reputation and, more importantly, a network. He still had influence over former troops all across Henan and Shandong. By bringing Li Mi into the fold, the emperor could use him to recruit those soldiers and stabilize those key eastern territories. It was a way to neutralize a threat and gain a resource all at once.
So Li Mi is met on the road. He has to enter the capital not as an equal, but as a subject. After dreaming of being an emperor himself, how did he handle that?
The sources are very clear about his state of mind. He felt infinite injustice and infinite sadness. The phrase is, he was once treated by the Tang Emperor almost as an ally. Now, to be forced to bow like a subject after his army fell apart over a silly trick was the ultimate humiliation.
And the Tang Emperor tries to soften the blow with titles and honors. What did he actually give Li Mi and his men? Was it real power?
Li Mi was made Guanglu King, which is a nice court title, but mostly ceremonial, and Shengzu Guo, an honorary military rank. The big one was the title Xing Wo Gonguk of Sheng. He was also given the emperor's cousin, Lady Dugo, as his wife. So high honors, yes, but it's a clear demotion. He's traded real authority for high status. He's a duke, not a commander.
A gilded cage. And what about his guys who stayed loyal?
Wang Bodong, who stuck by him, was made a Zuo Wu Wei general, a real military post. Du Runfu got a similar post. And Wei Xing, the guy who brought the bad news but saved the air, he was made a West Prefecture records keeper, a good administrative job. Everyone got a place in the new system.
But that final lament in the source just perfectly sums up Li Mi's whole internal state.
It really does. It paints the final picture of his fall. Once a dragon, now a ground rat. bowing among the high officials, weeping without words. The ambition is just crushed, replaced by the silent rage.